it's the best zapper customer family at work. We just have the greatest time. And it's not because we're so smart. We've got a great God who gave us an amazing self-healing body.
Yes.
And I want you to hear this story.
Yeah. My name is Tracy, and of course I did have MS. I was diagnosed, let's see, about 3 years back, and I was having a few issues. Actually, I was having a lot of issues. I was dealing with diarrhea, I was dealing with some nausea, some constipation, and one thing just led to another. MS is very complicated. It'll start with one or two things, and then you'll end up with a whole list of problems. And I'll never forget, I'm actually a performer. So I was on stage and I was performing a song, and I almost felt like I was having a heart attack. And I finished the series of songs that we did for that night, and I ended up going to the doctor, and I said, you know, something's not right. I've been here several times. We've had diarrhea, we've had vertigo, we've had nausea, and we've had tremors and muscle tenderness and heavy legs, and it just it's like I had a complete medicine cabinet full of medicine, and nothing was helping. And I just decided, I said, okay, well, whatever this is, I'm ready for it. Eventually they're gonna figure it out. I just had faith that they would. And so even though I kept going to the doctor, they still patched me up. They hadn't figured it out, and they said, well, you're young, you're fine. These are just issues you're having, maybe change your diet, this and that and the other. And I had to go to the emergency room a Sunday after church, and my mom said, we're demanding results. We want to know what is happening. She's falling apart. My legs were getting weak. I was thinking I was like deteriorating, and I almost thought I was going crazy some days. And my mom demanded this, and she demanded a CAT scan, and she wanted them to perform it immediately. And they did. They did. After months and months of the emergency room, they finally did it, and they found this lesion. And the emergency room doctors came in and they said, we want to perform an MRI because we don't think this is just something that will go away. So when they did the MRI, they found a few lesions, and they said, well, you know, this is characteristics of MS. I'm like, okay, whatever that is, how do we get rid of it? What's the cure? And there was no cure. They sent me home with the Avonex shots. They put me on the steroid treatments, and my vision became blurry. My hair started to fall out. I just didn't know where to go. I felt like I was falling into a hole, and I had to pray to God. To me, that was the only way I was going to get out of this, and I did. I prayed over a series of nights and nights and nights, and I stayed up on the computer, and I looked up MS and natural cures for MS and reversing MS and anything that I could do to heal naturally, because the drugs were literally killing me. And I'll never forget, I was dating someone at the time, and we're not together anymore because I really went crazy. I was up every night on the computer. I mean, it was my job to figure this out. And one night God said, just rest, let me handle this. And the next morning I got up on the internet and I found this book, and it was the cure for all diseases. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, sure, you know. I mean, we don't hear about cures for anything, so I'll give it a shot. You know, every time I had a flare-up, if you're familiar with MS, it's kind of like getting hit by a bus and surviving. That's what it felt like. So I couldn't take any more hits, and I needed something right away. So I got this book, and I literally read it as if I was reading my Bible a few times. And sadly, I haven't even finished the Bible the way I finished this book, which I should have. But anyways, so Dr. Hulda is amazing, and she sent me through a total body cleanse. I mean, I had to do the dental cleanup. I had to change the dairy in the diet. I had to get rid of all the solvents. I had to think about everything I was doing. And that was the total body cleanup. So I didn't even know anything about mercury fillings at the time. And that was the first chapter. And I was like, whoa, okay, I have 13 of these, and one of them is cracked. So that wasn't good. So I had them removed right away. Right away, I felt better, at least mentally. I didn't feel as crazy. And so I said, okay, I'm going to keep going through this. So I thumbed through each and every chapter. I did everything that I could, and I had results. And I started the herbal cleanse, and I said, this is it. This is it. Like, I can't believe I've come across a cure, but headaches gone, vertigo gone, the muscle tremors were gone, the constipation was gone. And it's something that happened so fast until, if I didn't have a journal, I wouldn't even know that I had MS. Like, I really wouldn't even know that I was going through these things, because I totally forgot I was even in any pain. That's how fast it happened. So she told me to keep a diary. She also told me that I would become pregnant with the cleanse. And the doctors told me that that would not be a good decision with MS, because my body would surely break down after such a big event. And I have a healthy baby boy. He's beautiful, had a beautiful pregnancy. Anyway, let me get back to the story. So I did the cleanse, great results. Like, I got rid of all the drugs. I got rid of the Evanex, I got rid of the shots, I got rid of the muscle stimulators. I think I was on anxiety pills. I was on Vicodin for the pain in my legs. And I was on a stool softener for the constipation. And I just totally trusted God. And I said, this is it. This is it. And I did that cleanse. And I fell to my knees and I said, you know, all the nights of this research, like, I was like a chicken with her head cut off, like on the internet every night, cure this, natural cure, this and that. And I read this lady's book and I said, what a gem. Like, am I worthy of this cure? When I found this book, I was like that amazed. So anyways, did the cleanse, great results. Now, I still had a few symptoms, but I'm sure it was something that was gonna take some time. But I was on tour at the time, so I wanted to speed it up. And I was still having a few symptoms, but that was fine because I had just started. I mean, we're talking 2 weeks. So I'm someone that I'm always rushing to do things, and 2 weeks, I was cured, like perfectly healthy. And so I had a show to do. And I read through the book and I said, you know, there's something missing, because I would eat some things, you know, like dairy, a couple of things, and I would feel bad again. And I was like, oh no, maybe I'll do another cleanse. Did another cleanse and I was fine. But what I forgot in this book was the generator. And it tells you how to build it. And I guess I just thumbed through it thinking, like, I can't even build a shelf, let alone a generator. So I think that's why when I went through the book, I was like, okay, I'll do everything else and then we'll get back to it. And so I Googled the frequency generator, the zapper. And when I Googled the zapper, the best zapper came up. So I wanted the best. I said, there were a couple over there, but I looked at the website and I said, this is put together well. The results are well, the testimonies are well, and everything looks to be like right. I had a great feeling about it. And so I said, this is affordable. This is wonderful. I'll try it out. In addition to the cleanse. So I called Arthur, we got it sent on its way, and I was still in the last few days of the cleanse that I did. And I said, well, I'll try the machine out, but the cleanse, why not? And immediately I had little white eggs in the stool. It almost looked like corn, but of course I wasn't eating corn because there was no nutritional value for me at that time. And there was lots of corn and looks like rice. And I was like, oh, wow, what is this? And sometimes they would move. And I was blown away, and I was grossed out because I couldn't tell people what was happening. But I was like, I thought the cleanse was great, but I did the machine, and it's almost like it triggered everything. It totally detoxed my entire body to where I was remembering things better, and I was socializing better, and my bowels became so frequent. And it was something that the cleanse was great, but the machine, the zapper, just totally, like, it's almost like like flushing a toilet. You know how every so often a few things will come up and they'll float around and you're like, okay, well it's working, but it's not. But it totally cleansed me out. And even a friend of mine that was staying with me was starting to have MS symptoms. And I said, okay, this is weird. You must have some sort of parasites too, because MS could not be hereditary in the household. That's very odd. So he did the cleanse as well. He has these like jelly type of gelatin things in his stool. And then he had all these black things. And I was like, okay, what have you been eating? Have you been eating grapes or something? He's like, I've been eating the greens just like you. And apparently, according to her book, they're like flukes. They were flukes of the brain and the spinal cord. So when I looked over MS, I'm like, can you believe that I sat there feeling like there was no hope? And I submitted to God and I said, you know, there has to be something out there. And he said, give it time. And he gave me the cure, and it has helped the boyfriend that I was living with at the time. It has helped my mother, who was having terrible problems with her kidneys. And they were rejecting over the years. They kept rejecting and rejecting. And I said, Mom, you know, this is working for me. Why don't you try the zapper? And she goes to the doctor now and they're like, her kidney is like A+. I mean, it's the kidney of a 21-year-old.
Hallelujah.
And her doctor came out to me and said, hey, because, you know, he screened me for MS and he was my second opinion. So he goes, whatever you've been doing, it's amazing. Your charts are amazing. All the symptoms have vanished. Even your mother is doing well. What's going on? Like, tell me what is the deal? So I told him about it, and he's had his mother on some sort of a cleanse, and he's, you know, working out the details of getting the machine over. And my mother and my father, my sister uses it. We use it on the dog. We use it on the baby when he was colicky. He has not had one single sickness, illness, infection, anything. And I don't know, it's something that you feel like you're not worthy of having it because it's so amazing. Like it works. It really, really works. And so I've been MS free. I've been to the neurologist, I've been to the doctor, and they say, hey, well, no MRI, you know, is showing anything, but, you know, maybe it's just your diet, whatever you're doing, you know, keep doing it. And that was their advice. And I said, okay, well, I'll definitely keep doing what I'm doing. And I go to the neuro and they check the legs and everything's fine. My stools are fine. I'm not having any of the heart problems. I'm not nervous, because right now I would be nervous. Like, that's how bad MS had me. I was like a wreck. And it's calmed me, and it just showed me right away there are parasites, and they were moving through me, and they were like sort of controlling me. And I have an unbelievable calm now. And even my dad, really quickly, I don't know if you have time for this too, but my dad was supposed to have total reconstructive surgery in both knees. Total. So he goes, we've been on the other things like coconut and all that, and he goes, well, how is this gonna work for me? This has nothing to do with cartilage. And I said, really? Are you sure? Well, let's just try it. Let's see. And so he come to pick up the baby, because he's the babysitter, and I put him on the machine and I give him his little coconut milk and all his stuff, and I said, well, just try it because I'd love to have some more testimony. And he says, okay, I'll do it for a couple months. So his surgery date was supposed to be April 14th of this year, and he called me on the 7th and said, the doctor says there's some cartilage, a little tiny bit of cartilage there, and it might be because of the diet, because that's what he's going by, the doctors. And I said, okay, you're right. And he says, I'm not gonna have to have the surgery, and if I keep it up, you know, I'll be fine and we can just stay on the machine. And I said, oh, that's great. And so now, if you call him right now, let's see, what's today? Tuesday? It's Tuesday. He might be at the skating ring. Like, that's how seriously well. And he's 6'4", so you know he has heavy, you know, problems with the knees. And he'll tell you in a minute, my Uncle Bobby, he'll tell you in a minute, we are all living testimonies of a miracle from God. Like, the most amazing thing. I've spent money on trips to Hawaii, and I could have had machines, and I'm thinking, like, you know, we try to go away and get away and feel better, but the cure was just right under my nose. So I thank God for Arthur and for his wife and his family and Dr. Clark, and And I hope this helps people, because I was looking for a cure with MS. I wish I had come across something so great as to put in this testimony and see that anything that you're battling, you can face it with this machine. Like, you literally can face it. And for the money spent on it, it may cure something you didn't even know, you were worrying about. Like, you was like, oh, my gout's gone, and all of a sudden, you're bouncing around, and it's that amazing, and it's easy, and it's just a blessing. So to anyone that has MS, I recommend the book. I recommend Arthur and the best zapper, which is the only zapper I would use. And it's great. It comes with these instructions, and my food is zapped, and it's a great lifestyle. And I couldn't be in a better place.